Hey guys, have you ever wondered why the sky is blue? Well, today we're going to create an experiment that explains it all, and you can recreate it at home too. Why are you blue, sky? Why are you blue? Alright, so we kind of take it for granted that the sky is blue. We look up and it's just always blue. But why would that be? Actually, when you think about it, it's not always blue. At night time, you can see right through it, otherwise you wouldn't be able to see the stars. And doesn't it go red at sunrise and sunset? Why would this be? Who keeps changing the colour of the sky? Well, if we want to figure out a problem like this, we first need to set up an experiment. Let's think about what is happening and why it's happening using our logical minds and our powers of observation. We will then try and recreate those same conditions, and if we can see the same effect down here on Earth using things we can control, then maybe we can explain what's going on way up there in the sky. So we know the sun is a giant source of light shining out there in space. Let's just imagine it's like some sort of a lamp or something shining towards us. But if I look at a lamp, incidentally, don't look directly at the sun, it can really hurt your eyes. But if I look at a lamp, I don't see some blue haze all around it. I don't see something like what happens in the sky there. So what's the difference? And also, if you're out in space, we've seen photographs from space, and they can point at the sun and we don't see any blue haze around it, we just see the sun and all of everything in the background. So there must be something that happens to the light from the sun on its way from the sun to our eyes. Any idea what that might be? Well, the Earth is completely surrounded with what we call the atmosphere. It's like a big little kind of a cushion of gas almost all around the Earth. So if we want to try and recreate this effect, where we can somehow make a blue sky, well, then we're going to have to try and recreate an atmosphere here in the lab. So let's go see if we can do that. Alright, so we know that the Earth has this atmosphere, this protective cloud around us. And it's just made up of different gases, oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen. We're breathing it in all the time. But we want to simulate what's going on there, because the sun passes through the atmosphere, we see it, and somehow all these colour effects appear up in the sky. So we're going to take our little lamp, and I'm going to simulate an atmosphere using a fish tank full of water. So I'll just rotate this so you can see it at the camera, and I'm going to point my little torch through the water, and you can see it. We're going to try a few different effects in the water, and we're going to see if we can make a similar effect to what we see in the sky. Okay, so imagine that this light is our sun, and we're looking at it here through our atmosphere. Well, at the moment you can tell that you can see my face here, right? You can't see any sort of weird effects. So we're just seeing the sun just as we would if we were out in space. So we haven't yet made this like our atmosphere. I'm going to take another little look at it. I'm going to rotate it sideways, and we're going to look from the side. Alright, so now we're looking from the side. I'm shining my torch through here, but we can't see it at all, right? You can't see the beam of light coming through here. If we were at the end, we could see it, but we can't see it when we're not looking straight at it. Let's even try dropping the lights completely to see if we can see the beam at all. Alright, now that we've dropped the lights, we can just about make out a very faint beam coming across here. Just about, if we look really carefully, we can kind of see some little bits of dust in the water, some stuff that the light's kind of bouncing off on, but it's very difficult to make out. So we're going to try and simulate this to be more like our atmosphere. Alright, we're going to pour some milk into this water, and it's going to make it more similar to our atmosphere, because our atmosphere is all sorts of particles and dusts and gases that are in there. So there we go. Ho ho! We pour this milk through. We can stir it around. And suddenly this becomes a lot more similar to our atmosphere. Now we're going to see what happens if we shine our torch through. So let's turn the lights back down again, and we'll shine the torch through and see what it looks like. And if we really want our torch to represent the sun as a source of light, we'll have to kill all the lights in the room, and we'll have to look at this with all the lights off. Now if we take a look here, we can see it's a completely different picture now. We can see that whereas before we couldn't really see any light hardly at all if the light wasn't shining directly at us. Now the light isn't shining at us, but we can see loads. We see this whole haze lit up here, and remember, all the lights are off in the studio. So all we can see is bluish kind of light, isn't that right? It looks blue. Whereas we know the light coming from the bulb is a kind of a yellowy white. Well, what's happening here is the light is scattering off all the teeny tiny particles and the proteins and everything that's in the milk. And the blue light scatters more easily than the red light. So remember, this light is made up of all the colours of the rainbow. So if the blue light scatters all off to the sides, I wonder what we can see if we looked at the light straight on. Let's move the torch over to here. We'll put the torch here just so we're going to shine it through the water directly at the camera. And let's turn it on, turn off all the lights in the studio and see what we see. Now we can really clearly see that we have an effect that's very similar to the sky during the day. We see a kind of an orangey glow, which is like our orange sun, and we see all this blue light all around. That's like our sky. So think about that. Why has the light got more orange? Well, it's got more orange because all of the blue parts of the light are being scattered away. Imagine the rainbow. Look at the rainbow. Imagine taking all the blue and bluish looking colours and removing them. All you'd be left with is the oranges, the reds, the greens, stuff like that. So that's why we see this orangey colour here. This really is like what happens when we look up in the middle of the day. But what about when we look up at sunset, yeah? When the sun is down low. Now, if I rotate my fish tank around here so that the long side is facing you, then my light is going to be passing through loads and loads more water. Yeah? Remember, this water is simulating our atmosphere. Because what happens at sunset? The sun goes down in the sky, yeah, and it's way down at an angle. So if we were to look from outer space, yeah, we'd see that the sunlight has to pass through more of the atmosphere than it has to during the day. Yeah, if it's straight above, it only passes through a little bit of the atmosphere. But if it's coming in from an angle, it has to pass through a lot of the atmosphere. So that's what we're simulating by passing it through a longer part of our tank. So let's take a look and see what it looks like now, and we'll kill the lights again. So when we look now, we clearly see that we can see that the light coming from the torch is really red. Yeah, it's a really, really strong red because almost all the blue has been scattered. And this is what happens when the light is passing through the atmosphere at an angle like that. All of that blue is scattered all over the place and people in a different part of the earth are seeing it. But by the time it gets to us, it's really super red. And that's why the sunset looks so red. Okay, we figured it out, guys. We now know why the sky is blue. We know why it can turn red sometimes. And we showed you how to recreate the experiment yourself at home. So I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you do try and recreate the experiment yourself at home. And I'm already looking forward to seeing you on the next one.